Lying is a part of human behavior.
People may lie for many different reasons: to avoid punishment, to make a better impression, to hide a mistake, or simply to protect themselves. Sometimes a lie is small and harmless, and sometimes it can strongly affect relationships and trust between people.
That is why many people want to learn how to understand when someone is telling the truth and when they are trying to hide something.
But it is important to say one thing right away: there is no single sign that can prove with 100% certainty that a person is lying.
Human psychology is too complex for such simple conclusions.
However, there are certain signals in behavior, speech, and body language that may indicate that a person is not telling the truth. When several of these signals appear at the same time, the likelihood that a person is lying becomes higher.
The first sign is inconsistency between words and behavior.
When a person tells the truth, their words, emotions, and gestures usually match.
But when someone lies, there can sometimes be a small contradiction between what they say and how they behave.
For example, a person may say that everything is fine while looking tense or avoiding certain questions. Or they may insist that they are not angry, while their facial expressions and gestures show irritation.
Such inconsistencies can sometimes be the first signal that someone is hiding something. The second sign is avoiding direct answers. People who are telling the truth usually answer questions directly and clearly.
But when a person lies, they may try to avoid the question. Instead of giving a simple answer, they might speak in very general phrases, change the subject, or begin talking about something else.
Sometimes a person even answers a question with another question in order to gain time and think about what to say next. The third sign is too many unnecessary details.
At first glance, a large number of details may make a story seem more believable. But sometimes the opposite happens. When a person invents a story, they may try to make it sound convincing by adding many small and unimportant details. They begin explaining things no one asked about or telling a very long version of events. Such an overloaded story can sometimes indicate an attempt to hide the truth.
The fourth sign is pauses before answering. When a person remembers real events, they usually respond quite naturally. But if someone is inventing an answer, they may need time to formulate it. Because of this, you may sometimes notice a pause before the response. The person may repeat the question, think for a moment, or begin speaking more slowly. These pauses do not always mean a lie, but they can be part of the overall picture. The fifth sign is changes in the voice.
When a person experiences stress or internal tension, it can be reflected in their voice.
Sometimes the voice becomes higher or more tense.
The speed of speech may increase or slow down. A person may pause more often, clear their throat, or repeat the same words. These changes can happen automatically because lying often creates internal tension.
The sixth sign is nervous movements. Our body often reacts to stress before we consciously realize it.
When a person lies, they may begin making more small movements.
For example, touching their face, rubbing their neck, playing with their hands, changing posture, or moving their legs.
Sometimes a person may fiddle with objects, adjust their clothes, or frequently shift their body position.
However, it is important to remember that such movements can also appear simply because someone is nervous. The seventh sign is excessive defensiveness.
Sometimes when a person is suspected of lying, they react too strongly.
Instead of calmly explaining, they may begin actively defending themselves, raising their voice, or showing irritation.
A person might say phrases like, "Why don't you believe me?" or "Why are you accusing me?" Such reactions can sometimes appear because of internal tension and fear of being exposed. The eighth sign is repeating the same phrases. Sometimes a person who is lying may repeat the same phrase several times.
For example, "I really didn't do it," or "Honestly, I don't know anything about it."
Repetition may be an attempt to convince the listener or even themselves. When a person tells a real story, their wording usually changes naturally.
The ninth sign is changes in the story.
If a person tells the same story several times, you may sometimes notice small differences. For example, the order of events may change, new details may appear, or old ones may disappear. When a story is real, such changes happen less often because the person is simply remembering real events. But if the story is invented, keeping it exactly the same every time is much harder.
The 10th sign is the feeling that something is wrong. Sometimes the strongest signal is an intuitive feeling that something in the conversation is strange.
The words may sound correct, but the person's emotions or behavior do not match the story. For example, someone may tell a serious story without any emotion, or show emotions at a moment when it seems inappropriate.
Such small inconsistencies can sometimes be important clues. In conclusion, it is important to remember that detecting lies is not an exact science.
People may feel nervous, stumble over words, or pause for many different reasons.
Sometimes a person is simply anxious or feels pressure during a conversation.
Therefore, it is better not to make conclusions based on only one sign. It is much more useful to observe the overall picture, how the person speaks, how their body behaves, and whether their words match their behavior. The more carefully you observe people, the easier it becomes to notice these signals. And although it is impossible to completely eliminate lies from communication, the ability to understand human behavior helps you navigate conversations better and build more honest and trusting relationships.